Welcome back. Today is a big day of earnings. We have Reliance, HUL, Ultratech Cement coming out with numbers, and tomorrow a slew of banks as well. But let's talk about the top 10 stocks to watch. IndusInd Bank reported a bit of a relief on their net interest margin. So I think the street will take that positively. But Abhishek is here to give us a better understanding of the numbers. Abhishek, morning.
Morning, Sonia. So as you mentioned, it's one of the rare instances where the net interest margin has remained steady for 3 quarters in a row at about 4.29%. And it's a relief given the fact that other lenders are seeing a decline in the net interest margin on a sequential basis. So what has worked in the result? The net interest margin continues to remain stable. 12 quarters of operating profit growth of both YOY as well as sequential growth that you are seeing for IndusInd Bank. This time it's up about 8.6% YOY and more than 3% sequentially. So in terms of return ratios, ROA is the best in last 17 quarters coming in at 1.93% and ROE is the best in last 16 quarters coming in at 15.45%. On the flip side, Tamil Nadu floods did have an impact on the slippages. So slippages increased to 1,765 crore, which is up more than 20.5% on a sequential basis. Annualized slippage ratio is at 3-quarter high of about 2.16% when compared to 1.9% in the previous quarter. Their operating efficiency is bad. Cost to income ratio is one of the highest that you are seeing in last 7 years. However, in terms of P&L, both the ANA and PAT is a beat on our poll. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that. Over to Mangalam now for Metro Brands. Mangalam.
Well, discretionary consumption hasn't picked up too well, and as a result of which, add to that the weakness that we've seen in the business on account of the Fila Brands acquisition. All of that has meant that revenues for Metro have grown just about 6% There was a high base as well. The EBITDA has actually declined by 3%. That means the margins have come off by about 300 basis points. And as a result of which, the net profit has declined by about 12.5% as well. For Cravatex, which is the Fila business, the revenues for the quarter have been 8 crore and the EBITDA loss has been about 12 crore. The management had alluded that, there could be EBITDA problems for the next couple of quarters. And the company has continued to expand their store base as well. So see some red for the opening, but management commentary and on growth and, growth of Fila, etc. will be extremely important.
Right, Mangalam, thanks very much for that. That's Metro Brands, and you'll hear from the management a little later here on the program. Finolex Industries is the next one we are focusing on. Upasana is here with details. Upasana.
Q3
I think we have some issues there with Upasana, and we'll come back to Finolex Industries in a bit from now. But let's go on to Pharma. Ekta is here. Ekta, good morning. Shalby and Lupin in focus.
Well, yes, very interesting acquisition by Shalby. It's a small one, but it's interesting because it will really ramp up their focus in terms of international patients. So they're going to be acquiring 87% stake in PK Healthcare, which is Sanar International Hospital in Gurugram, for around 102 crores. The stake will be bought within a period of 1 month. Now, the investment, according to the company, is in line with their strategy to accelerate their presence in the Delhi NCR region with a vision to scale up the international business and consolidate their presence in the north. Now, it is supposed to be located in one of the prime locations of Gurugram. It's a 1.2-acre land. It has a current capacity of around 130 beds and they can expand it to 180. Hospital generates 70% of business from the international space and it caters to more than 60 countries, and that's the key point which Shalby is probably going to benefit from, because there's so much focus on in terms of international travel, medical value travel, and hence this would be probably a very good addition to them in terms of scaling it up. Separately, Lupin, they've got a US FDA nod for Uloric generic. It will be manufactured at their Pithampur plant. It is used for patients with gout. Sales are small, around $27 million, so it's a normal approval for Lupin, but they have received a spate of approvals and launches in the US markets, so it'll probably add on in terms of sentiment.
Thank you very much for that. Abhishek is now joining in on Home First Finance. Abhishek.
Well, it looks like a strong set of numbers on the, AUM growth front. However, take it with a pinch of salt, with a bit of negative coming in, and asset quality, gross NPA and net NPA, value-wise rising by about 5% and 5.7% quarter-on-quarter respectively. AUM growth is pretty strong at 33.5% YOY and about 7.7% sequentially. You are seeing increase in tenure, which has actually aided in AUM growth this time around. The NII growth is about 35.3% YOY and about 6% sequentially. PAT growth is about 34% YOY and about 6% sequentially. However, the net interest margin declined to 5.7% when compared to 6.4% in the same quarter last year and about 6% in the previous quarter. Spreads have also come down by 20 basis points quarter-on-quarter and about 40 basis points on a YOY basis. The other factor to look into the number is the sharp capital consumption. So, capital adequacy ratio is at 40.9% when compared to 45.5% in the previous quarter. This capital consumption of 460 basis points for a 7.7% sequential growth looks to be on the higher side. Back to you.
All right, thanks a lot for that. Well, Finolex Industries is the other one that we're looking at this morning. Upasana is here to tell us more about that. Upasana, over to you.
Well, Finolex Industries reported its Q3 FY24 numbers, and we are seeing a revenue degrowth of almost 9% on YOY basis, while the PAT is up by almost 20%, mainly due to higher other income and lower expenses. The reported EBITDA by the company is also up by 31% at 120 crores, and EBITDA margins have expanded by 360 basis points at 11.8%. Coming to the sales volume of the company, they are down by about 19%, leading to a revenue degrowth. While talking about the revenue mix, the PVC resin stands at 25% of the revenue mix. Now coming to the revenue logged by the segment, the PVC resin, the revenue is down by almost 36%. EBITDA margin stands at 9.7% versus 2.5%, and sales volume are down by almost 32% on YOY basis. Now coming to pipes and fittings segments, which is almost 75% of the company's revenue mix. The revenue in this segment is down about 8% on YOY basis. The EBITDA margins stand at 7.5% versus 6.4%, and sales volumes are down about 10% on YOY basis.
All right, Upasana, thanks very much for that. Well, Supreme Petrochem is the next one we are focused on. Back to Sonal. Sonal, morning.
Good morning, Prashant. Well, for Supreme Petrochem, on a quarter-on-quarter basis, it was a decline because remember, we've seen cracks going down in the quarter gone by. The entire petrochemical segment is seeing some pressure. So their revenues declined 7%. We had EBITDA decline of 11%. Margins slightly lower at 8%, leading to a profit degrowth of 13% as well. The company said that their volumes came in at 1.7% in terms of an increase on a YOY basis. That means that realizations could be under some pressure, and that has been the industry-wide phenomenon as well. Interestingly, they say that Red Sea issues are impacting the exports to the USA, Europe, including Turkey, and this started by the end of November. So this is something that we'll be tracking closely because export is also an important part of their business.
Thank you very much for that. Back to Upasana for some more stocks which are in the news.
Well, first up is Dixon Technologies. The Directorate of Revenue Intelligence conducted a search with respect to the classification of the raw materials imported for the manufacturing of one of the products at the manufacturing facility in Noida on 17th of January 2024. Company says the impact of financial operation or other activities of the listed entity cannot be quantified at this point of time, and according to the company, it will not have any material impact on the financial or any other activities. Next up is Shoppers Stop. The net profit is down by almost 41% on YOY basis, while the revenue is up about 9% on YOY basis. The EBITDA margin stands at 18.1% versus 21.2%. Well, that's the reason we are seeing weak numbers coming in from Shoppers Stop. Coming to 361, on quarter-on-quarter basis, the revenue is up about 3%. Brokerage income is down almost 13% on YOY basis, while the other income is up about 97% on YOY basis, while the operating profit before tax of the company is down almost 2.5% on YOY basis. Now coming to the PAT of the company is up about 5% on YOY basis.
Right, thanks a lot for that. Here's a quick recap of our top stocks. Stocks with positive news flow: IndusInd Bank, Finolex Industries, Shalby and Lupin. While stocks with negative news flow, Metro Brands, Home First Finance, Supreme Petrochemicals, 361, Dixon Tech and Shopper Stop. But let's also get a quick grip on what's happening in the world of commodities. Manisha Gupta is joining in for a roundup of all the action there. Manisha, hi, good morning.
Morning, and thank you for that, Sonia. Well, I'm looking at the crude oil prices today because we are looking at support coming in from the strong demand estimates that have been projected out by IEA and also OPEC. So IEA believes that for 2024, we could be looking at a demand growth of 1.24 million barrels per day, while OPEC has put out a number at 2.25 million barrels per day. So there is strong demand estimates for this year. Add to that the geopolitical tensions that we are seeing in from the Middle East. There also are reports of extreme cold in North Dakota that have led to some disruptions in crude production there. And then the U.S. crude inventories also have seen a decline by 2.5 million barrels. So everything really seems to be working in favor of crude prices trading on a firmer note. But that's just that while we have seen gains in energy, the metal prices have seen a decline. So gold is down 2% in this week, and that is because the dollar index is trading at a one-month highs. The metals also have seen pressure in this week. You have copper trading at one-month lows. The weak fourth quarter GDP numbers from China and very mixed data for the rest of the numbers as well seems to be weighing on metals. Until now, in this year, in the month of January, have all performed on a negative note.
Okay, Manisha, thank you very much for that. So that's basically commodities in focus. Now,